Having a place to rent can be difficult in today's tight housing market. The average cost of one-bedroom apartment has risen to 1900, which is 6% increase compared to last year. We have a guest here today who has a front row seat in observing the changes in Kitchener rental market. Our guest here today is Scott Hundey, who is the CEO of MVP Rental Properties. Welcome to the program, Mr. Hundey.
Hi, Cornelius. Thank you for having me.
From your company's experience, could you please describe the rental market in Kitchener Waterloo?
Well, it's a university town, first and foremost. There's lots and lots of student rentals out there, but it's become more of a suburb of Toronto in the last few years. So there's a lot of commuters, a lot of new condos and houses being built for people who are not going to school and working outside. So as far as rentals go, you don't just have the student rentals anymore. You have a lot of people moving their families here and young couples and seniors too as well. It's actually a really nice place to live. I moved myself here about 5 years ago, so we love it.
Okay. What do you think is the high cost of rental in Kitchener-Waterloo?
There's tons of different factors. You could start anywhere. You could start overall in the world economy, especially as you mentioned when we were talking before the interview, coming out of a pandemic, where the cost of living and everything has just gone through the roof. Those costs are passed along to people who live in rentals, but also to people who own rentals. And the most recent factor that has been affecting rents, I believe, is the interest rates on mortgages. A lot of people got into the rental market as an investment. They got in there with the intention of making money, and sure, yeah, maybe helping people, but their first and foremost goal was to operate a business. And when their costs increase, their customers' costs usually also have to increase. And I think that's what's been a major contributor over the last couple of years.
Has Kitchener-Waterloo experienced this kind of high cost of rent?
I think everywhere is experiencing that. If you go to Toronto, if you go to any of the cities, you're going to see that across all of Canada. You're going to see that across all the major cities in the world too, as well. I think there's a global increase in cost of housing. There's a huge population in the world and not enough places for people to live. And it's a supply and demand thing. So when the supply goes down and the demand is high, more people who are able to pay more are coming forward, and then those rents go up.
You said when demand and supply affects the increase of rent. Do you think that some of the government policies are helping to increase the demand for house rent?
Well, I don't know if I can say the government is as active a participant as renters would like them to be. And I don't think the government is an active participant as far as the rental property owners would like them to be as well. I think there's a lot of things that are in place in a system that is heavily trafficked and people use the word broken, but it's really just there's a lot of delays when it comes to any of the government intervention with rent and getting assistance with rent and getting help with those problems where landlords are maybe not doing things the way they should to try and sell a property, because quite frankly, a lot of landlords are now in a position where they can't afford to pay their mortgage on their rental property and don't have much choice but to sell. And then when they go out and try and find somewhere else, they realize that because rents have gone up so much, it's very, very difficult for them to be able to afford anything.
From your experience in Kitchener-Waterloo, have you noticed any of the authorities' initiative to help reduce the high cost of rent?
Well, there's always been social assistance programs throughout Ontario over time. There's lots of support available for people who are willing to go look for it. If you can't pay your rent or you can't pay your bills, the government does have programs in place to help you, and you can usually go to the government websites to find those programs. The fact is that it's not a permanent solution for most people, and it's not a long-term solution for most people. So those problems remain. and some of the people wind up not being able to pay. And then the landlord winds up not being able to pay their bank for their mortgage. And, those things all have implications and consequences to them. So,
Yeah, it's so difficult to get housing. What medium do you think is the best option to follow when you want to rent a home?
when you want to rent a home, well, I think it works both ways. There's people who are looking for good tenants, and there's tenants who are looking for good landlords, and it's connecting those two. There's a lot of online platforms that attempt to do that, but the onus really is on the individuals involved in that transaction themselves. The tenants have to do a really good job of communicating with the potential landlords. There's a lot of people who there's a lot of fraud out there. There's a lot of landlords who would be willing to take a risk on someone who was honest too as well, who maybe didn't have all of the best criteria that the online verification companies want you to have. I think it's good for landlords to be in a financial position to be able to perform their job the way they should.
Finally, what is your advice for people finding it difficult to rent a place?
Be persistent. That's my advice for anybody and anything. Don't give up. And there are good landlords out there, and there are good places there. That are affordable. They may be tough to find, but the people who find them are the ones who don't give up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hundey.
No problem, Cornelius. It was nice to meet you.